have these overtones. And it is virtually impossible it is impossible in nature to produce this. However, there is as a wonderful invention in the 1700s, in fact in Europe, there was an invention that was made to tune to standard of pitch because all these orchestras were playing out of tune. This invention was made, and it was a tuning fork, which is a beautiful symbol. It's a dowsing symbol. You have a dowser as one of your advertisers. Well, the original dowsing, that universal yin-yang symbol, if you want to look at it that way, which I oftentimes like to refer to it as, it's a perfect device to produce a sound wave. A sine wave is without overtones. With this, in fact, it's the cleanest tone that man has ever been able to produce. No computer, no high technology has come up with a more perfect frequency than a tuning fork. Now, if I got your attention, because this beautiful tone that comes from a tuning fork can be used to interact with your cells, and that's what I do with Accutone.
Yeah.
That's like a pendulum. Like I'm saying, the prongs are going back and forth, and they're producing. It can't go any further when it goes to the right. It can't go any further when it goes to the left. And as it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it produces a pitch. And that pitch that goes back and forth on the prongs, or the two that go up in the tuning fork, also goes up and down on the handle. So it goes one direction, back and forth on the tuning fork, and up and down on back and forth and up and down on the handle of the tuning fork, therefore producing an up and down effect of that frequency. So it's a beautiful tool.
If you listen closely, you can hear that too. It is, you can feel it, you can hear it and feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you like if you put it on a piano, which piano tuners do to tune pianos on the soundboard, on the top they tune the piano to the tuning fork. They start with that pitch. And you do it to a guitar. You put it on the front of a guitar, and you use a tuning fork. That's the old way. Nowadays, we've got these tuners, the electronic tuners that are with a 9-volt battery, and you can tune them up, and you don't really have to have good pitch to do that. You can just look at the computer screen. But the whole point of this is that, and I'm trying to give you a little foundation of why sound is so important as it relates to our world, is that these are all the creatures in our world. The animals, the caterpillars, if it's going to be a cold winter, it's been said that they grow extra fur. And it's been said, of course, that you can see these natural signatures. Well, these are being signaled. They don't get bigger or longer fur for nothing. And the change of the fish, the color, doesn't change its color because it's just it's a nice thing to see. It has a purpose. The colors are revealing its age. The colors are revealing its true color. As it gets older and older, and as it changes into something else, the form that it takes, just like gray hair in people, the older you get, our frequencies change. It's because it's inbred in our cells. And I propose that with these frequencies, we have the ability to recalibrate, just like an MRI. By the way, tuning forks are used to calibrate MRIs. Those high-tech devices out there, well, no technology has been able to surpass the tuning fork in creating a pure tone frequency, so they calibrate the colors of an MRI to a tuning fork. So
okay.
my point is the same. If you can calibrate your body to a frequency that has a known active energy, a known level of energy in your body, you can use these consciously to help direct what's happening with you, and that's what I do with Accutone and the practitioners that I treat, and what I can do with people that don't have any knowledge of this work. I say very simply, you don't need to have any background in any of it. You just have to know a little bit of how you receive tones or intervals when they're combined together. And that's one of the beauties of this, is you don't have to have a musicology background like I do. You don't have to have physics. You don't have to have a Chinese medicine background like I have. And you don't have to have math. You can have the ability to just listen. And that's what I try to impress upon people. If they can just hear the music, if they hear the tones, the intervals. I use the Hahnemann lullaby quite often as my example. That interval of ba ba ba, ba ba ba. And I don't care if you're from South Africa or if you're from Canada, wherever you're from, you will feel relaxed, because that interval is the interval of a third in the way it's played. But if I play bum 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 bum, that interval is a fifth, and that fifth is reveille. And you don't go to sleep with reveille. You wake up with reveille. And so that interval is a fifth, which rises chi. So you can rise with frequencies, and you can reduce with frequencies as they're combined.
Well, we talked last night on the show about this book that's just coming out, Dr. Boyd and Dr. Dean. It has to do with this as well, because it's important to understand that while you're using these frequencies, you and many other, maybe not as many other as we should have, but other practitioners understand this and are using it as a very real healing modality. There are others, though, who understand the same concepts but are using it for control and for destructive purposes. And it's very much a science, ladies and gentlemen, that is being manipulated by artificial intelligence, computers now. The new nanotechnology will just blow you away when you have just an inkling of the capabilities, Dr. Dean, that they can use for good or evil, but mostly for evil, it seems like.
That's exactly right. The concern that I have with as many waveforms as we're being exposed to. Have you ever heard of microwaves affecting patients with pacemakers?
Oh, sure. There's warning signs all over when you buy a microwave.
Right. Well, that's a mechanical device affecting another mechanical device, because microwaves are not supposed to exist in that concentration in nature. They shouldn't be there in that concentration. What you're suggesting is a very real thing. I dove into this because I'm seeing people coming to me that are directly affected by their environmental frequencies that are not helpful. They're not beneficial. They're not able to protect themselves from it, for example. I have a patient who lives in the mountains. They put up a cell phone tower. She immediately got these problems, and she couldn't sleep. She was having nightmares. She was agitated. Constant. And the only thing that had changed in her world is they put up a cell phone tower, and they didn't even tell her. And it was within a block and a half of her dwelling. And this is the kind of thing that there's show me the science, show me the proof. How do you know that this is affecting you? And it's not that, like I said, the healthier you get, and most people true, if they're not eating organic food, if they don't have a daily discipline, if they're not drinking clean water, they're not concerned about their health, they're not going to get it. The people that are going to get it are going to feel these changes and be aware of them, these subtle changes in the frequency of the world, are the people that are doing things that take care of themselves. So what I don't take people I don't take patients that smoke, for example. Not that I have, it's just not my thing. And I don't take people that drink. I say, if you're going to do a detox with me, there's no cheating. You can't do this and fake it. In other words, your body has to resonate to a higher degree of thinking, a higher degree of feeling, a higher degree of consciousness. And consciousness follows will. Energy follows consciousness. Consciousness follows will. And what you're suggesting is that our environment is being manipulated in such a way that the people that don't have a strong, healthy body, they don't have enough minerals in their cells, they don't have enough water in their cells, they're not physically prepared to take on their environment is being manipulated. And it's being manipulated in a negative way with these wave frequencies. And if you'd like to ask me a question about what is happening with them, I can elaborate.
Well, yeah. Let's just take just one specific frequency. You said the color blue. Well, I want to just kind of expound on that a little bit. This is an old technology, really. I read some information quite a few years back, Dr. Dean, about the White House. Okay, the rooms in the White House. They found that when the president, whoever he has been, would need to get inspiration or to go in and have a mood, they would go into a different color room and get that mood, whether it's a meditation state or whatnot. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a way to induce a response. Mm-hmm. Like I'd mentioned before, if you use intervals, you could induce a response. For example, Hahnemann's Lullaby or Reveille. And with that, you also have colors that produce a kind of effect, right? And these frequencies are embedded into our cells. Our cells recognize them because we're consciously connected to those cells, the frequencies that are around us. Now, just a little background, because I can give you more on this, but I'd like to just remind you that we historically, in every culture, have used music as a way of guiding the culture or helping to give it its direction. For example, the Chinese had felt that if they were able to duplicate the sounds of the birds, and the more harmonious your music was in your culture, the more beautiful sounding it was, the more your culture would thrive, the healthier your family would be, the more you would be prosperous, and so on. And if the more dissonant the music was, the more your culture would break down, the more disease would occur, the more financial stress would be, and people would not be interested in understanding each other. I give it to you this, as many cable channels as there are, as many frequencies that there are flying around, what do you think is happening? What is happening to our culture as a result of being bombarded by frequencies of so many varieties, so many different types?
Our brains are turning to mush, and so are our cells.
They're not able to handle the circuitry. They're not able. The filament needs to be strengthened. They're not able to hold a strong frequency to be able to ward off the effects, the negative effects of these frequencies that they're not conscious of. Most people aren't anyway. And I'm not saying that to say that we have people that don't want to learn. That's not the point. The basis is we can't shield ourselves from our environment. We don't live in an environment that the Chinese did 2,000 years ago, so our relationship is different. But the more refined you get in how sensitive, you can be sensitive because you have allergies to foods. Well, those frequencies, those that interact with your cells, may not be appropriate. But when you get to the point, and I'm not saying this to boast my health, but you get to the point where you can eat practically anything and feel good and know what you're doing with yourself, that's when you start to move into a powerful place and being able to recognize how you can use your environment to your advantage. It's called integration. Mm-hmm. So we're making an argument for being healthy. We're also being, the ones that are in the know on how to inform you on what these negative effects of these frequencies can be. And I would hope to offer some time here to help your listeners on how to provide them with the way of protecting themselves from negative effects of X-rays, negative effects of microwaves, negative effects of even the very mild current of radio waves that are going on all the time, cell phone waves. These are not supposed to be there, but because we live in a world that has changed, we need to change along with it. And I can help, with some of those techniques if you'd like to, maybe in the second hour, because it takes a little discussion on that.
Oh yes, indeed. Let's jump right into that. And I got to also just say again,